Hey guys, welcome to LoveCast, the Boys Love podcast, where we talk about everything related to boys love. I'm your host Pixie, and with me are my co-hosts Alexa and Kayla.
Hello.
We are talking Korean boys love today and have a special guest with us from the K-drama podcast Dramas Over Flowers, Paroma. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome.
Yay. So great that you could join us to talk about this.
I'm excited for this conversation. I mean, I always want to talk about the new developments in boys love dramas in Korea because it's so interesting.
Yes.
It just suddenly exploded and nobody
Came
knows
out of
why.
nowhere.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I remember when the Korean Boys Love came out, I was so curious because I didn't know what to expect because we hadn't seen anything before.
Yeah.
And I remember I was really like, if you look at the quality if you go from Thai BL to Korean BL, you is this controversial?
There's a big difference in production quality. It's fine. You can say it.
Yeah.
I always thought that was kind of expected though, because I mean, while I love Thai BL, I'm one of the OG watchers. Like my experience of Thai BL was like Sotas. It was Together With Me, 2 Moons, the original stuff.
Yeah.
And then it was as if because the popularity was so huge, everybody and their mother started making a BL drama, and just the production quality fell. And how? And at that point, I was
gone
like,
for quantity over quality, it seems.
Yeah. And then occasionally you had like a brilliant one,
a
right?
gem.
But then with Korean dramas, I always felt like if they ever did BL, they would like make sure the production was there, even if the super hot chemistry wasn't like, they weren't focusing on it that much. Yeah.
But that's a K-drama problem. Yeah, overall.
Yeah. Pretty much.
No, I really I was surprised. Like the first Korean BL we got was the Where Your Eyes Linger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my favorite was Mr. Heart.
All the fluff.
I love Mr. Heart.
Okay, I have a question I want to start out with, because the whole setup of Korean boys love up until now has been very different from what we're used to from K-dramas and Thai BLs and in general. I am curious what you guys think about the whole short episodes and the whole releasing the movie version afterwards.
In terms of the format, I feel like, first of all, that's probably one of the easier ways for them to actually put things into production, because, you know, with the production quality of Korean dramas, they tend to get they can get pretty big and I imagine expensive. So for these smaller companies that are focusing on boys love, I feel like a web drama with a couple 8 to 10, maybe sometimes 12 episodes that are just 10 to 15 minutes in length is the way to go. And, you know, that's the same thing with hetero Korean web dramas. They're basically the same format. So that part I'm fine with. I mean, I think it's a good way for them to test the waters, kind of see what kind of traction they get online and go from there. The movies have been kind of hit or miss for me. Sometimes they do put a lot in, like they put in like that extra content, that kind
20 minutes.
That brings you back into the story, I guess. And other times I'm just like, why didn't they just put it in the drama to begin with type thing, I guess. So I don't know, some of them have been hit or miss for me, but overall I'm not too bothered by the format. Of course I would love to have like a full length 16 episode Korean drama
1 hour
that is boys love, but I don't know when or if we'll ever get something like that. So
I don't mind that format either. I think it makes the dramas very digestible, so you can watch them in one sitting, which is important if you don't have a ton of free time
or attention span.
Yes. And the movies, I have watched all the movie versions now, but the only one that I felt added stuff to the story was Color Rush. The other ones, right. I couldn't really pick out what had been in the short series and what was just in the movie.
Yeah. I kind of I prefer the movie version. So every time someone asks me if they want a recommendation, like I just tell them to go watch the movie version.
The movie. Yeah.
Because it's basically the TV series just with extra scenes. And in a show like my biggest example is Wish You, because the TV series is really hard to follow. The pacing is all over the place, and it's just what's happening. But in the movie version, they added enough to explain everything, so the pacing is a lot better. So I feel like it's a little bit unnecessary to do it like that, but I understand where they were coming from when they first started. Like they needed to check how popular it's gonna be and stuff like that. But I feel like, okay, it's been a year now. Can we move on?
Part of it, I think, is the format restrictions of whichever medium they are putting the dramas out through, whichever app, whichever streaming platform they're putting it out. They have really peculiar restrictions on time and like how long your intro has to be and all of that stuff. Right. At the end of the day, if you have like 8 episodes to tell your story, they're just going to push the thing out and cut out whatever scenes they can sacrifice. And sometimes those scenes are actually necessary.
Yeah,
but they get important. Left out. But on the other hand, I really do think that's a matter of the medium that they're putting it out through, which is why the film version, which comes out later, and you already know that, there was enough interest in the whole thing to make it worth it to like edit everything back in again. It just, you're absolutely right. If anybody has to watch these, go for the movie version.
Yeah, and they all have movie versions now, don't they?
Pretty much all of them.
I think all of them do,
Yeah. So it does show like the popularity of it. So I think that like it's about time to give us something more.
I think the biggest issue, we all know Korean dramas. I mean, every boys love drama is very heavy on the product placement. But I think in Korea, it is still harder to get sponsors for LGBT media than it is in countries like Thailand and the Philippines, where boys love, they can already see how much revenue it brings in, so they're willing to put revenue into it. But I don't think Korea has quite, their sponsors and media platforms have quite gotten to that point yet. So I think that's the biggest reason we have not gotten like a full-length Korean BL yet.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so if anyone has like had an account with the Gaga Ooh La La, that name is so long. If anyone has an account there, you can find several LGBTQ Korean series or movies. So like before the Korean BLs hit it. So there's a lot out there, but
there's a lot of short films and indie films and stuff out there.
Yeah, but obviously it doesn't have the same popularity, so they've probably been struggling a lot to get those out, like Strongberry and stuff. Like I think they're getting more and more now, but it's it took the BL to kind of shoot off properly.
Yeah, I was reading somewhere that Gaga Ooh La La started having a lot of subscribers in South Asia and other Asian countries once the BL content was added to their catalog. Before that, they had like gay content, but it was not that it wasn't getting traction. But suddenly, because, and here's the thing, I'm sure you guys have had conversations about how the origin of BL was like women writing for women, and it's like a primarily a women focused genre.
Yeah.
So these subscribers who are coming on board are also primarily women. And they are coming in for the BL content. So on the one hand, it's helping the app, definitely.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm not sure how much it's doing for queer representation in these countries, because these countries traditionally don't have, like, including my country, traditionally does not have a very open-minded approach to any kind of, homosexual storyline.
Yeah. Like for me, like as a straight woman in a very progressive country, obviously there's homophobic people here too, but I see the BL as sort of a gateway for people to understand the LGBTQ community better, because a lot of homophobia comes from the fear of the unknown. Like, they don't understand it, so they're just kind of like, they fear it, like phobia, right?
Yeah.
So the BL genre is helping, at least, like, being a stepping stone for people to get into it and understanding it better, and then kind of getting the knowledge they need that's proper representation. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that BL doesn't reflect real gay life, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Okay, so I should rephrase what I said, because on the one hand, you're right, it promotes allyship. I know people online in my own life who've watched BL content and have like realized, had a just
it's not bad
burst of thought there that, oh no, like, it's possible, this kind of relationship is possible, and it's not something that you have to cringe about.
Yeah.
And so that's great that it promotes acceptance, but that is something that I find really interesting, that this content is created and is most popular with people who are happy to, become allies, and not necessarily for the queer community themselves. So the reason I bring this up is because Korean BL is very clearly written for women. It's female, like you can see the female gaze in every scene, right? And especially because of the production value, that is even more apparent than, because it slightly makes the whole sexual tension thing step back a little and really promotes like emotional bonding. And so it's just, I mean, I appreciate it because it's basically written for me, but I'm just thinking that these are different ways of why did Korean dramas suddenly, or not Korean dramas exactly, because this is not in broadcast, this is primarily web series, it exists. So it's still not broadcast friendly, but Korean industry had been doing web dramas for about a decade before that, but BL content was nowhere to be found. It was only in early 2020s that suddenly it appeared, and it didn't end in an unhappy ending, or people just like vaguely walking off.
I'm really honest. I think this is all part of the Together impact. Because that drama, and you can argue that it only got popular because of COVID and everyone was stuck at home and stuff like that, but that drama was a prime example of what a BL can do if it's well marketed and becomes popular. And it hit a lot of Asian countries, South Asian countries. It made its way to other countries like in Europe and America. And so I think that was a huge show for other places that weren't doing BL before what it can do, because that's when the Philippines got into the scene. That's when Korea got into the scene. And I think that is a lot of it. Not entirely. You know, I do think COVID played a role in it too, and everyone being home to give their viewership to these shows. But I do think Together was a huge example for countries that weren't previously doing BL as to what BL can do when it's well done and when people like the show that they're watching.
Yeah. And I mean, like that Together was made readily available for free. Made the numbers what it is today. Like, I probably think like I Told the Sunset About You would have been on the same level if they had put it out for free.
Yeah.
But since they put up the paywall, not as many people are gonna watch it, even if it's good, because it's a lot of money. And so money talks. And money's always gonna talk. Like, you're gonna have all these countries like Korea and Philippines and stuff that aren't necessarily LGBTQ friendly or allies or they're gonna see the money in it and they're gonna start producing. But it's still like it's a stepping stone again, and the world revolves around money, so we're not gonna get away from that. But
I think it has its positive offshoots as well, because production companies like Strongberry that are marketed more on queer media and made for queer people are gaining a lot from the BL boom as well. So, you know, it does give them a bit more of a market to be able to put their productions out to audiences that want to see them. And those are queer-led and queer-written and queer-aimed productions. And we see the same with certain productions in the Philippines, you know. It gives them an opportunity to tell their queer stories in a way that I guess is, I don't know if deemed more marketable now is the right word, or maybe now that the market is there, they have found a spot for them within the market. So it does have positive offshoots in that way as well, I think.
I think it's just that the more you explore these storylines, there is a point where you get a little tired of the same story basically being repackaged again and again, and at which point you start looking for nuance. Nuance does come better when the writers and directors involved in the creation of these stories have personal experience to draw from. So that was kind of inevitable.
100%.
I was looking at a chart from Statistica earlier, and I thought this was really interesting. So they did like a poll of like the share of South Koreans supporting legalization of same-sex marriage, and how opinions have changed from 2001 to 2021. And in 2001, it was like 17% of the population. In 2021, it's like 38%.
Okay.
And that's like a major shift. And it was around 2014 that the shift actually started happening substantially. And that kind of makes sense because that is around the time when you started seeing some movies with like very clear, gay characters coming up. They all had tragic stories, yes. But still, it was happening. And more K-drama started actually having gay characters whose existence they were trying to normalize it. Because I think even mainstream directors and writers, they want to include storylines, like properly nuanced storylines, and not just like coming out of the closet storylines with queer characters, but they just didn't have the chance. So they kept them in the background. And often what Korean dramas did, which annoyed the heck out of me, which was using the queer character to like make the main characters look good, as in like a gay character would have a crush on the male lead and the male lead would be super cool about it, which is just so not how the ground reality is. But I think the will is there, and if if the polls show anything, there is a rising acceptance of same-sex relationships. And I think that is also contributing to it. Economics, as you said, huge. I'm pretty sure that is like the primary motivator. That's where people were like, let's just take the chance and see if anybody puts us behind bars. Oh, they didn't. Let's make more content.
Yeah. No, if anyone listening haven't seen any of the Korean dramas, I can really recommend going checking it out. Like I watched Long Time No See, and it's from 2017. It's a little bit rough around the edges. I'm not gonna lie. It's not K-drama quality, but it's really good. Like the story is really good and it's different. And yeah, I can recommend people checking those out. And if you go to Gaga Ulala, they have a lot of catalog of these, so you can easily go through them.
Yeah. There's one thing I will say, even if the Korean BLs have all kind of followed a similar format, I appreciate that all of the stories have been fairly individualized. So, we all know Thai BLs have the university engineer format, but I mean, in all the Korean BLs we've gotten, yes, there have been students and high school stories and stuff like that, but they've all felt different. Like from Where Your Eyes Linger to My Star to Light on Me to Color Rush, they all do have unique aspects and unique storylines to them, and I think that is one thing that I've always loved about Korean dramas in general, and I appreciate that they are also trying to bring that into their BL media as well. So I think that is one thing that does make them stand out, is that they do at least have a lot of variety to offer within them.
Yeah.
Agreed. And who would have thought that we would get like a historical BL drama? I was not expecting Nobleman Rue. That was just complete. I kept thinking I'm being hoaxed. This is not. It can't be a BL. I'm just watching some web series, and they are totally not going to do what I think they're going to do.
And they did it. I did not expect that. And like I love historical dramas, and so I always loved seeing historical BLs, a few that exist, like The Untamed and things like that. But I definitely did not expect one so soon from Korea. So when they dropped that, I was definitely very surprised. But I'm glad that it happened. So
I really expected it to be like a bromance, like just we're gonna market this as a BL, but it's not really. But yeah, it was. How good it is can be a discussion.
I mean, if you're talking about unrealistic storyline.
Yeah.
But the costume, come on. And just
the hanbok is so gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I felt all the feels, and that was the important thing.
Right. So we talked about it a little bit in the beginning, but what are you guys' favorite Korean BL?
I already know what Pixies is.
Yeah.
I can see you waiting to say it.
You want me to say it?
Go for it.
Yes.
To My Star.
Yeah.
I love it. I really, really love it.
I think for me, it's like My Heart, Mr. Heart, and then To My Star. Because To My Star is very close, but I watched Mr. Heart first, and somehow it just made a place in my heart.
Yeah.
I
can get that.
Yeah, I think for me, To My Star and Color Rush are both kind of in the same place at the top of my list.
Yeah, Color Rush is definitely my favorite because I loved how unique the storyline was.
Yeah.
Other than that, I did really like To My Star also. And I think I can't remember if I mentioned this movie before, but I really love the Korean BL movie Night Flight, and I think everyone should watch it.
Oh, that movie.
I've
heard about it, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah,
I watched that in like 2015 or 2016, and it still has like a chokehold on me.
I think about it all the time. Like I recently rewatched it. It's very sad. Because it's like an older BL movie, but I think the storyline is very worthwhile. Like it's so good.
It's very well done.
what did you guys think about Light on Me? Because I sort of feel it was different than anything else we'd gotten until then.
Mm-hmm.
I think Light on Me had probably the best quality, like, honestly. I really loved looking at it aesthetically. The storyline kind of frustrated me a little, which I guess we'll talk about when we eventually review it, but like, I really loved it in the moment, but whenever I started to think about it more, I was like, these characters just really frustrated me. And at the end of the day, did anything actually happen?
Yeah. I am not a fan, and this goes across all Korean dramas. I don't like watching dramas where I don't know who the lead is going to end up with in the end. Like,
right.
That is very frustrating to me. 'Cause I like, and this is like, I don't know, maybe this takes the fun out of watching dramas for some people, but I like knowing who to root for. So that's why I typically like Korean dramas, because they make the second lead very obvious. And yes, you sometimes get second lead syndrome, but like in the long run, you know he does not have a chance. So dramas where the love triangle is like actually legit and you don't know who the person is going to end up with can be frustrating for me to watch, and that's why I didn't watch Light on Me until after it had ended, so I knew what was going to happen, and I think that made me able to like it more.
Yeah.
I haven't finished it yet.
Well, no spoilers then. I don't think anyone said what happened.
So. No. You guys didn't. But like, I can't give an honest opinion on something I haven't finished. But the reason, partly, that I haven't finished it was because, like you said, I wasn't sure where this story is going, and I found that really frustrating, and there were other stuff to watch. It's like, I don't got distracted.
Yeah, I think the reason why they did that is like it's based on a dating game, so it's supposed to be a little bit like
a dating
you can
sim type
end up
thing.
with anyone kind of
Except
deal.
you can.
But yeah. I was just so shocked at the first episode that they actually show a dildo.
Oh my god.
I did not expect that from a Korean BL.
What is going on? Yeah.
That was so funny.
I think it definitely, like, it was nice to see a show with more episodes in a longer format, because the episodes were more like 20 to 30 minutes, and it was 16 episodes, right? Yeah. 16? 14? I think it was 16 episodes. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
So it was nice to see something in, like, at least episode-wise, the full Korean drama length, and with a little bit longer episodes, too. So I think they were able to put a lot more into the story. Like, I definitely do not think the whole who is he gonna end up with would have worked if they only had, like, 8 episodes that were 15 minutes. It would have just been a mess. So I did appreciate the length of the series. I think that did a lot for it in terms of the popularity that it has.
Yeah. Hopefully that's like a trend now that it's gonna evolve more.
Well, the Tasty Florida did not. Tasty Florida was only 8 episodes, and they were pretty short from what I am seeing. I'm not sure about My Sweet Dear
yet.
Yeah,
I've
so
just
I feel like
clips because that's unavoidable when you're on Instagram, and right now Instagram is like hopped up on any content they can get that has BL elements in it.
Yeah.
So lots of clips.
I've
seen screenshots. That's it.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. I haven't watched the last 2 episodes yet, but it is very noticeable after watching Light on Me, going back to the shorter time length format. I think it was it's hard to follow Light on Me when it comes to that aspect of it. So I think a lot of people did get kind of frustrated with the pacing. But overall it's pretty sweet and not bad. But I am hoping to see that we see more that kind of follow the longer episode format in the future. It would be nice.
Yeah. I wonder if, like, now that people have seen, like, a proper, like, 16 episodes Korean BL, that they're gonna sort of get spoiled and demand from future productions.
That does happen. I think people need to be patient. I think that's something that BL fans aren't necessarily good at. But I think it is a work in progress. So I think, Light on Me was really a gem in that way. And I'm sure in between we'll have some others that don't necessarily live up to that. But I mean, the show has gotten really popular and the cast has been doing like a lot of interviews and that kind of stuff even after it's ended. So I think that is a good sign for other people who might be looking into making Korean BLs about how well that show is doing and the format that it follows. So hopefully that will say something to other production companies. But yeah, I think I think patience is key when it comes to stuff like that.
I'm pretty optimistic about it because do you guys remember Reply 1997 had Infinite's, what was his name?
Oh, Hoya.
Hoya, right.
Yes.
And it's almost a tradition to, like, if you have like, okay, it's not a tradition, but it is done quite often that if you have a gay character, they are often like models or idols who are very new to the acting line. Like you had Lee Jong-suk in Secret Garden. And he was just like the freshest face ever. And he was playing a gay character who was misunderstood by Oscar. And it's just that Korea, with its K-pop scene and a lot of idols trying to make their way into the drama or the film industry, it's actually a pretty decent pipeline to go through web dramas or like smaller, shorter dramas and into acting. They do that already. Casting directors, like, they do this intentionally. They cast them in like roles, like smallish roles or even lead roles in very short web dramas.
Yeah.
And for a lot of these, like, as they see the popularity of BL dramas grow, you can see quite a few young idols making their way into these roles, right? And I think that itself brings their own audience into this genre, and that is probably going to help it grow even faster.
Absolutely.
Yeah. My incentive for watching a couple of the Korean BLs was because I liked the K-pop idols in it. Like they've been using a lot of the boys from Produce 101, and I was a huge Produce 101 fan. So it's really cool going into it and already like knowing them. So you can kind of like be their fan in one respect, but then you're watching like the show that they're in and just that whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a correlation between K-pop fans and BL stans.
Oh, absolutely.
The
K-pop to BL pipeline is very much a proven thing. I feel like
it's like their dearest fan fiction coming to life. So
literally.
So I think like Korean BLs will have really great foot to stand on if they really go in for it, because I think K-pop fans are hungry for it as well. Even more so than Thai BLs and Filipino BLs and stuff like that. So it's gonna be interesting. But I'm really curious what quality of shows are going to come out once like COVID sort of is over. Like it's never going to be totally over. We all know that, but when restrictions lift and we can like live normally again.
It's weird to think that so much of this boom in BL has happened just in the past year and a half, and that we have been under COVID restrictions, or at least in the countries where a lot of the BLs are being filmed, because, as I said, I live in America and we don't do restrictions for COVID here anymore. But a lot of the countries that BLs get filmed in are still following a lot of COVID restrictions and regulations when it comes to filming. So I am really curious to see what they will do when they don't have those guidelines to follow and aren't being limited by how many people can be on set and how many days they have to film and things like that. I think we will see a lot of cool, hopefully new and exciting things coming out.
I trust Korean drama writers. Just
same.
I really love the director for Where Your Eyes Linger, and To My Star.
Yes, you have raved about her.
I love her. And she's coming out with another one. We don't know when. Yeah,
we don't know when it's coming out, but she is the director of that one.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that. Like, okay, a question. On the other end of the spectrum, if you would have to say that one is your least favorite, which one would it be? Kayla wants to answer this one.
Actually, that's a really difficult question because I feel like I didn't hate any of them outrightly. So it's going to just be which one I didn't like the least, which might be... I might have to pull up a list of them because I can't remember all of them.
I feel like I would probably go for Wish You.
Yeah, I am on the same train. Like, Wish You or Nobleman Ryu are my lowest ones. Like, they're not bad like, if you've seen some of the BLs out there, they're not
definitely
bad.
not the worst that's out there, but in terms of Korean quality.
Yeah. The pacing is
I think my least favorite is definitely Nobleman Rue, now that I think about it, because at the end there with that fake kiss, I was so angry. I was so angry that they didn't even actually kiss, and it was this weird angle where their hands were...
They pulled the angles,
Yeah. For me, it was the least liked and not really disliked was probably Color Rush. But that was just because I knew what they were trying to do. I didn't think they executed it very well. It was a little bit all over the place. And because there were so many elements, there was the magic realism element of it. They had the parental opposition thing. I mean, there were quite a few things going on, and I didn't think they committed to any of it. So for once, I actually got involved in the plot of it and was disappointed that the plot didn't deliver.
Yeah.
So probably Color Rush. But as Kayla said, I don't think we've had enough dramas to actually have one that we dislike. I mean, I'm sure they'll one will come out eventually.
Yeah, I do think a lot of people do have really strong opinions. I know that a couple of our listeners have really strong opinions on how much they don't like Korean BLs. I think that's more because from what I've seen, it's a lot of usually our male listeners who don't like them, people who want more than what I call the fish kisses. Like the romance storylines that's more involved with feelings, and you usually see female watchers.
I can see that. I think as someone who, I've been watching Korean drama since 2015, so I'm used to that aspect of Korean dramas, because I don't think that's not exclusive to BL, and I don't think it's related at all to them not wanting to show dudes kissing. I don't know, maybe it is, but we all know the fish kiss and the focus on emotional connection and all that kind of stuff is Korean dramas as a whole and not just boys love. So I think if you have been watching Korean dramas previously, you're probably not as fazed by it, but if you're coming in from watching Thai BL and stuff like that, then you might notice the difference.
If you're going from Tharn type to BL, you're gonna notice a difference.
You're gonna notice.
I actually have a thought there. The first time I watched, what was it? Where Your Eyes Linger. I thought that the reason they did the kiss like that, it was exactly a head couple kissing in a Korean drama. And I thought that was intentional because they are trying to market to the same audience as Korean dramas in general. So they wanted everything down to the aesthetics of the first makeout session to be the same. So I thought it was just a clever production decision to start doing it that way, because I have seen especially in some Korean movies, some web series where they have had proper intimacy. So it's not it's completely out of bounds, but I think they deliberately decided to keep that line and do it that way so that it is more mainstream and it, people can share it and recommend it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, Where Your Eyes Linger was the first one, like, proper one.
I mean, a lot of people didn't even think we would actually get a kiss in that drama, so I feel like, I totally agree with Paroma.
I mean, we always didn't.
When they were in the bed or whatever, and he said that he won't kiss him because he's got the cut on his lip or whatever, blood, I was just like, oh, you're coughing out of the kiss. Fuck you. But they delivered in the end. Yeah. I wasn't mad at the kiss in that show. I think like the way they did the show, it fit into the narrative of the story. Yeah. So I wasn't mad. And the director, like you saw in To My Star, she took it a little further. Like it's basically the only. That was a kiss.
True.
And I mean, I think that's a struggle. Like I said, I think that's like a general K-drama struggle because in general, I think K-drama intimacy has been a lot more modernized over the recent years. You'll see a lot more making out and a lot more bed scenes and stuff, but there are still dramas in 2021 on the het side of things too that go for the fish kiss barely lips touching. So, I think what kind of kiss you're gonna get is just a general Korean drama struggle, and you really never know until you actually get to the scene itself.
I mean, if you want proper intimacy in Korean dramas, you need to go to the queer media Korean dramas because they're going for it. I'm just saying, I can remember because I was reacting to the
Long Time No See.
Long Time No See. And I was just like, oh, they're kissing. They're still kissing. Oh my God, they're still kissing. Like that, half the movie was just intimacy, and I'm just like, whoa. Yeah, that's good.
Something.
Not that I like always just need intimacy. Saying that.
No, we got you. Something that I think is interesting, and I don't know if this is related to the boom in Korean BL or not. I've also noticed, especially this year, a lot of queer women in Korean dramas, and I don't know if that's come from BLs getting popular, but like nevertheless had a lesbian couple that actually became canon. There was a woman loving woman character in Hometown Cha 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 that just became canon. Kim So Hyung, who was like, Kim So Hyung, who was like every lesbian's dream woman, had a story where she was a lesbian and she was the main character. So I've also been seeing, and it's interesting because they're definitely, I think, for the most part, moving them beyond just the support character who ends in tragedy type thing. Like, and nevertheless, they made the lesbian couple canon. And I mean, by the end of the drama, most people were rooting for them more than the main characters in that drama.
Because of them.
For them,
it got
literally.
The main couple got so boring.
I was so tired of them, but I was like, I will do this for the lesbians. Like,
do you know, somebody actually compiled all of their scenes together. Sora and what was her name?
Sol and Ji-hwan.
Ji-hwan.
Sol and Ji-hwan,
Right. So Sol and Ji-hwan, somebody compiled all of their clips together and barely comes to half an hour of all of that. What, 10 episode, 12 episode show?
10 episode show, yeah.
But it was like the best half an hour.
It was so well done, though. So
the crumbs.
The crumbs. We were there for the crumbs. But it's interesting to see, and, this might just be because of the changing values in Korea overall, as Paroma mentioned earlier, but more queer characters popping up in dramas where their roles aren't solely based around their queerness or them being a tool to the other characters in the drama. So I don't know if, like, maybe I just noticed that now because I am more involved in the BL GL fandom, so I'm looking out for that stuff more, and I've also like come into my own sexuality as a bisexual person, so that stuff is more important to me. But definitely a lot more queer women and queer people overall in general Korean dramas in the past like 2 or so years, which I think is a really interesting trend to point out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to
noticed a lot of like queer coded characters as well, which that could be hit or miss, and like I don't know if like everyone picks up on it, but I've noticed that a lot in like all the BLs, but like Korean ones mostly. Like is Sweet Home. I feel like there was a lot of queer coding in that one. This one's Japanese, but Alice in Borderland, I feel like there was so much
oh my god,
queer coding in that one.
I can't think of his name, but I know exactly who you're talking about. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but queer coding in Japanese media has been there for a long time. Like, you can find it in anything you watch.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, even in Squid Game, I feel like Sangwoo's character was quear coded.
Yeah, I was gonna mention, there's been a lot of talk online about that. And
I've seen the posts.
Now that we have, like, since we have you here, Paroma, and you talk a lot about K-drama, and this, obviously it's not a BL, but what do you think, like, about the impact of Squid Game?
What do I think about the impact of Squid Game on what Korean drama watching?
It's being talked about all over the world, and I
don't think that it's so Squid Game is like a lot like Dark, the German series Dark. It got like immensely popular, but the people who went and watched Dark didn't exactly go and watch other German dramas. Yeah. And I honestly think that Squid Game has exactly the same appeal. By itself, it's very popular and it's going on. It's not going to be bringing in a lot of new audience for K-dramas. I think the popularity of K-dramas was already on the rise. And because Netflix was pushing so many K-dramas to as many people as they could, and they, of course, produced Squid Game, it helped Squid Game get where it got. But Squid Game itself is not helping the popularity of other Korean dramas, which are, to be fair, vastly aesthetically and tonally different from Squid Game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like I was so surprised because when Squid Game came out, my boyfriend, who hates everything that isn't English or Norwegian, wanted to watch it. And I was just like, what? Did I hear you correctly? So, and he liked it. But I do know that he is not going to sit down and watch anything else in Korean.
It's really weird to see, kind of. And, like, I'm all for, like, the same thing kind of happened when Parasite hit international audiences and everyone was talking about it. And I think there is this weird, I don't know how to say it, but like whenever something from a foreign country gets popular, I think people who, particularly from Western countries who aren't familiar with that media, tend to put it on like a pedestal as if like, God, it's so cool that Korea could manage to make something this interesting and violent and dark, as if, there are plenty of K-dramas out there that are already like that. So I think, people have this weird, I don't know if xenophobia is what I'm looking for, but they definitely approach it from a very Western mindset when they're coming to foreign media, especially if it's not in an English language. So
I mean, like in Norway at least, like anything that's not from America or England or Norway, everyone sees that as being, it has to be low quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, like everyone else in the world doesn't have the money to make anything with quality. It's the mindset is so like privilege and just
a lot of people in the Western world define success by it being popular in, say, like America or the United Kingdom, and that's just like not how it is.
It's so funny because there was a tweet that went viral about how a show with such like unknown actors could manage to get so big. Meanwhile, the actors in that show are some of the biggest actors in Korea. So it just goes to show their mindset. Like Gong Yoo is in the show. Like, It's just very much like a Western-centric lens that people are viewing it from, and I think that's partially why I'm just like, meh. I mean, it's cool to see, like, Korean actors on Jimmy Fallon and stuff like that, but I'm also like, I personally think there's a lot better K-dramas out there. But, like, hey, it's awesome to see it. Yeah, it's awesome to see it blowing up, and it's cool to be able to talk to my friends about Korean media in some way, at least.
Yeah, like this happened with like headlines of BTS too. Like they were doing the biggest band you've never heard of.
Yeah.
Like, what?
What?
What are you talking about? It's so wrong. But like the world, at least, it's getting smaller and smaller, which means more people are understanding that other countries aren't less just because like they're not American.
Yeah, I agree. We're getting there.
So, yeah.
It's a process. Yeah. It's cool to see how things have changed over the years, though. Like, very much so.
Yep. Paroma, do you have like if you were to recommend a K-drama, your favorite one, which would you recommend people go watch?
My favorite one, like of all K-dramas?
Of all K-dramas, yes.
Wow, that's Okay, actually, I just started watching The King's Affection, so right now historical dramas are on the top of my head. I would say Rookie Historian Go Hae-ryung. I mean, am I saying this right? Yeah, Go Hae-ryung.
Yes.
And it's got... Wow, my head is blanking right now. Yeah, Rowoon, but I was thinking of the actress.
Not Rowoon. Cha Eun-woo from Astro.
Oh, what is
King's Affection has Rowoon. That's why I was saying Rowoon. Cha Eun-woo, yes, and Shin Se-kyung.
Shin Se-kyung, that's the one I forgot.
I got you.
And she is just marvelous there. I didn't realize that she could act like that, but she totally owned the character, and she was such a pleasure. And just the entire drama. Hey, listen, I mean, Cha Eun-woo basically plays Rapunzel there, and he's like this prince stuck in a tower, and Shin Se-kyung's character goes and basically rescues him. Okay, it's amazing.
It works. It's fitting for him.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, guys. So that's it for our episode this week. Thank you so much for joining us today, Paroma. We've had a lot of fun chatting Korean BLs with you. You can find Paroma at Dramas Over Flowers on social, and you can find us at LoveCast Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know what your favorite Korean BL is down in the comments. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcast, follow us on Spotify, or whichever podcasting platform you're listening through. And share this episode with your BL-loving friends. And if you'd like to support the podcast and help us continue creating and releasing episodes, you can join our Patreon, where you'll receive exclusive access to our Discord server, guest announcements early, extra clips that didn't make it to the final episodes, and more. Or you can send us a tip on coffee if you're unable to commit to monthly support. And any help is greatly appreciated. We have a lot of costs with the podcast, with editing and stuff, so anything helps. So thank you so much for today, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.